There we go. All right, so let's have Alamjit, and ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Alamjit Sekhon. Everyone, please.
Thank you. Thank you for this nice, warm introduction. I was like, okay, this is the second last session before things end up and it's going to be drudgery. So I'll promise to try and make it a little bit interesting in my own The Laughing Cow way. So the first thing, Namaste. That's the traditional welcome from The Laughing Cow to all of you for this session today. Now, you'll be wondering, these two things that you see out there, there is a word, the laughing cow, and then there is Bell, and how does this all tie up, and what do I do? So Bell is a 150-year-old cheese company, or rather, it's a healthy snacking company with a speciality into dairy and cheese. And the Laughing Cow is one of our most iconic brands, a brand with a heritage of about 100 years, and that's the brand that we first launched in India, which is just about 4 years ago. So that's a bit of what we're doing, and what I intend to do today is to try and take you through a little bit of a visual journey of what we've done, what we've attained, and how we've got there. So that's the intent for today, so privilege being here with all of you. So in this very short period of time, so what we did was firstly we started to be inspired by a lot of the Indian startups and this ecosystem out here, and leave aside our MNC mindset. And that's how we came in pretty much like an entrepreneurial lean organization in India about 4 years back. And in this very, very short span of time, what is it that the journey has seen? So what we've seen is that as a brand, we've been already starting to be perceived as number 2 in terms of the cheese space in India. Spontaneous awareness, which is practically zero when we came in about 4 years back, is zooming year on year and growing quarter on quarter. And at the same time, all this is translating into some amazing business metrics. I can't share the exact numbers, but what I can definitely share with you is that value sales is growing at about 2x YTD September, and so is market share. So it's reasonably good growth, which is also being recognized in different forums in terms of some of the marketing awards, some of the business forums, etc. So what we'll try and do is, okay, what worked, and then over to questions either right now or maybe later over drinks, coffee, whatever. Great. So hopefully this works too. Yeah, great. So what we did in all this is we left this MNC mindset behind and we said, okay, how do we approach India and what do we do? So we started small. We didn't start all across, but we started in a couple of cities to try and test and learn. And within that, we said, no mass media, let's just go digital. Let's see what happens in terms of when we go 100% digital. And it was like lots of questions coming in. Does it work? Does it not work? Et cetera, et cetera. And initially, we did complete test and learn. So we did not even have a TVC for India or a communication for India. We said, okay, let's be frugal. Let's just take a piece of content. And as long as it's true to the Laughing Cow values of taste, nutrition, and laughter. And we actually took a South Africa copy. And you can imagine the people there maybe don't really look like Indians, but the ad worked. It worked very well, as long as the core message of the brand was very, very good. So that's what we did. And what we do in terms of our advertising, even through digital, is that we don't have a one-size-fits-all. There's very, very sharp targeting in terms of saying, okay, what do we do in every city? What are the metrics by city? Who is it that we target basis the cheese penetration within that city? So it's not, okay, what's the income filter we put there, what's the filter we put, what frequency, et cetera. And all of this is a very strong algorithm behind it in terms of the data-driven marketing. What ad does a consumer see the first? After they see it, when do we reach them next? After they've seen one ad, okay, what's the next one that they should see? And so on and so forth. And I'll just take a quick example, a small one out here. So the image that you see in the center of the lady holding a pack, that's one of our more iconic formats, which comes in a round box which has 8 triangles or 8 wedges, if you may call it, within it, which kind of melt in your mouth. Needs to be experienced to be believed. And after we lead in with that, because that's been a great driver, what we do is we say, okay, perhaps you want to make a sandwich, and this may not be the most convenient for it. So, okay, we have this, which is slices, which will give you the same Laughing Cow experience in a slice for your sandwich. So that's a little bit of a visual example of how we do some of these things. No rocket science, just simple basics. And along with it, we also reach out to a lot of key opinion leaders. So what was happening was COVID was happening, and 2 years was pretty much written off because of expansion or our geographic and retail expansion due to COVID. But what we still did is, okay, we said, let's go to some of the key opinion leaders. And we have a lovely mascot. And that mascot, without any consideration, just went and delivered a happiness hamper in this bleak time to people. And they responded without any consideration and started to post their stories. So simple, small things that we've been doing like this. Then all this advertising and everything that we do on digital, it's but natural that all of this should lead to purchase. We don't have our own D2C portal, and the intent is we want to focus because there are enough and more platforms around which give us sufficient scale. So we lead in all this traffic to some of our e-commerce partners. And not only that, we also use them as a lead, trial, and business driver. So what and how do we specifically do out there? So what we do is we figure out and say, okay, this is a consumer who's had cheese. And this is a consumer who's not tried the laughing cow. And there may be a second cohort of consumers who would have been, okay, I've tried the laughing cow, but I haven't tried it in the last 3 months. And there'll be a third cohort who's tried one particular format, but not the next one. So each of those will get a different message. And at times, they'll be linked with a differential offer as well. So we try and understand, okay, what's the right level of offer? Is it 10%? Is it 15%? What's that number? With a little bit of try and learn. So that's a try and learn. It's not necessarily that you keep going try and learn on everything, but in terms of, okay, what can be that? What is the message that works? Some A/B, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the other things that's super important is when you're doing all that awareness, when a consumer starts to search for the right keywords. So it's not about a spray and pray, okay, when they're searching for the right keyword, are we the number one in terms of that search rank? So that's a bit of the other thing that we do along with discoverability on e-com. Then comes in sampling. So sampling is key to us because no amount of my telling you that my cheese is great is going to convince you as you're tasting it yourself. And that's why we believe a lot into this. And even within that, we do a lot of analysis to see, okay, which format, when we sample, what's the kind of ROI we get? And it's not just about the first trial after that, but it's about a consumer lifetime value. So how many consumers buy in at what frequency, et cetera. And that's how we kind of analyze and lead in with a particular format. What we also realized then later, and linked with it, is that it's not necessary for the same format that you're sampling to be available on the same platform. Just as an example, what we realized and did was we launched a rupees 10 SKU of cheese. Today, there was a huge barrier because when you look at the FMCG market in the country, about 2/3 of sales happens at rupees 10 and below. And cheese was starting at close to 80 to 100. And there was this inherent barrier to trial. So it's not only as a sampling pack, and I'll talk more about that later. And we use that to sample, but even with that, the conversions came back to the core range. So we do a lot of this ROI analysis out here, and along with it is strategic partnerships, because that's the only way we can get the data in terms of, okay, from a media, this is the link, this click goes to, for example, Big Basket pictured out here. And then they come back and share the analysis and say, okay, this is the number of, this is your cheese penetration, this is the data, market share, how many of these converted, how many of these dropped off at what stage, so that we can address it in the campaigns to come. And along with it, we do a lot of other work, which is not necessarily only online, which is maybe like people don't understand the cheese category. We were having a conversation on this. And we do this in terms of, we have experiential cheese factory for kids at a theme park called Kidzania. Kids can go there, make their own the laughing cow cheese and be certified cheesemakers. We did something other interesting with Madover Donuts, the leading donut chain in the country. And they wanted to do something savory, so we said, okay, let's go make a range with the laughing cow. So we did that, and then we keep interacting and finding our TG at the right places. Like you see the mascot interacting with kids at Hamleys. And this brand experiences continue wherever consumers shop. So we have our TLC or laughing cow ambassadors in large stores along with the mascot. We have visibility that we do along with cross-category, which is typically where consumers would be consuming cheese with something, maybe, for example, breads. We even tried things as checkout, and then each of this goes into saying, okay, with this particular touch point, what's the cost of acquisition? With this particular touch point, what happens in terms of lifetime value? And then how do we allocate the budget space as this? Because there is a curve. So up till a certain extent, you get a certain ROI, and then after that, it starts to dip. And speaking of breads, we did something very interesting in terms of trying to enter new households with this particular category through breads. And there is this interesting channel that exists called the Bread Wallas, specifically more so in Mumbai. So what I'll do, I'll stop speaking for a bit and maybe show you a quick AV of this association and partnership with a simple category like breads and what it can do.
Cheese, a relatively small but fast-growing category. No player focuses or owns a particular occasion. In order to imprint the Laughing Cow cheese in consumer minds, we wanted to own the association of bread. The Laughing Cow sachet is unique. It is the only single-serve and ambient cheese needing no refrigeration. We worked on a three-pronged campaign to cement the association of bread with the Laughing Cow. Step 1. Partnered with bread vendors who go door-to-door delivering bread across Mumbai. The Laughing Cow was the first company to tap this huge unorganized network, recruiting 1,000 bread vendors who delivered samples to 0.12 million households even during the COVID lockdown. We hope to start selling the Laughing Cow through them over the next few months. Step 2. As we increased distribution of the Laughing Cow, we hit the next level. Cross-promotion of the sachet with different bread brands and products at select stores through retail bundling. Step 3. Once distribution, availability and knowledge increased, we thought of something that no one else had done before. Co-branding. We tied up with Quality Bread Company, #1 in brown bread in Mumbai. Pre-packing 50,000 sachets along with the bread over 3 days. Brand sampling activation has become a key source of awareness and brand recognition. And our endeavor is to achieve bigger success through more such innovative ideas.
So that's a bit of what we did. And now your question might be that, okay, how does activities like these, how do they link into digital? So anything that we do in terms of any sampling goes always and always with a QR code. Now, two simple things. We try and ask how was the consumer experience with this, and we always link it with a buy now, which then goes into online, and then we are able to track a lot of this. Now, it won't be an exact metric, but at least we get a good indication of how some of this is working. So that's a little bit of what we do, or some of the things that have helped us in terms of our success. And it'll be incomplete for me to not mention the fact that whatever has been done has actually been done by this wonderful team out here. And I just happen to have the privilege of being the spokesperson. So everything, including the presentation, has been actually made by this wonderful team. And I just have the privilege of presenting it here to you. So with that, since I had a quick mandate of like 15 minutes dot, including Q&A, so if there is any Q&A, happy to answer that.
Thank you so much. We'll quickly open the floor for questions as well, ladies and gentlemen. Cheese fans, come on, put your hands up. Let's have some questions coming in. Yes. For that, we are ready to raise the hands, yes. But any further questions? Yes, we have a question right across. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to understand, what is your target audience? What is the niche that your target audience is looking like as compared to, let's say, the Indian brands, across? What is it? Obviously, you have a unique product, right? But what is it, what is it that customers look for?
I think the first thing that we do is we don't consider cheese as a category and then within that. So what we look at is that there is today a real problem statement for any homemaker or for anyone at home, which is about making something nutritious and delicious in a quick manner. And we try and do it in our unique way with a side of laughter. So that's what we try and tap into in terms of making snack time more nutritious and delicious. And that's one of the reasons why we also call out very strongly the nutrition within our products. So like anything within the Laughing Cow, we are the first and only fortified cheese with the power of 5 in the country, and addressing key micronutrient deficiencies like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin B12, calcium and protein, with about 15% of RD of these being met within one single serve. So it's more about going out and expanding the category rather than playing within.
That's very interesting. I also want to appreciate your comment on thanking your team. I think that's very delightful of you to do that.
We are where we are because of their effort. No amount of my speaking is going to get us there. Thanks.
Any further questions, ladies and gentlemen? All right. So then on that note, let's have a round of applause one more time, and let's thank Alamjit.